Welcome to the Heart of the Equation, where analytical minds explore leadership, professional growth, and the human side of success.
This is the space for business professionals in a STEM field to reflect, grow, and redefine success on their terms.
Together, we'll dive into challenges, transformations, and stories that can help you build an authentic, purpose-driven career.
Let's get this started.
Hello, everyone. We're back to you with another episode of the Heart of the Equation. We have a wonderful guest in this episode. Her name is Diana Lagalante, Senior Communication and Change Manager, founder of the HBA community at Roche. Welcome, Diana.
Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Anissa and Pragati. And thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I'm very thrilled to be here with all of you.
Thank you for being here. We're super thrilled for our conversation today.
Absolutely. Excited to having you, Diana.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and the topic is something that is very close to us. We were talking before this podcast how these type of topics, like leading without authority, leading without permission, this is something that is very interesting to our listeners. And today we are going to talk about leading without permission. Diana is an expert, and you have lived experiences of that, but you're also really living that. So before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we will kick off with our questions.
Absolutely. So yes, the topic leading without permission, maybe just leading without waiting for permission would be more the appropriate one.
Exactly, yeah. Otherwise, it's chaos.
Yeah, because otherwise I'm just instilling a wrong message to the audience. So we don't want to overburden the steps of authority, right? No, but who am I? My name is Diana Lagalante, as you mentioned. I've been working at Roche for the past 10 years in different positions, always in change and communications. But I'm quite a veteran in the pharmaceutical industry. I've been working in this industry for more than 25 years. So always within different organizations. I am Swiss and Italian, so I have two nationalities. I was born in Switzerland, Basel, but I grew up in the south of Italy, and I came back into Switzerland by the age of 14. I have been always interested in the humanitarian causes. So not specifically, about causes about climate crisis or so on, which is quite important nowadays. If you look at what's happening in the world, there are three fundamental problems that we have. It's the nature, is humanity, and it's also technology that is coming towards us. But when I say I am a humanitarian, I say specifically about what's happening with health, with gender health, and specifically on the societal value that we need to invest more and more moving forward. So when I say I've been working for Roche and other pharmaceutical industry, of course, I'm a very passionate employee, and I always bring this transformation aspect in moving from adoption to success in order for digital transformation to move ahead. But I wear my hat as a Roche employee, but also as a committed HBA volunteer, which I've been volunteering for more than 15 years now, in driving and doing things with purpose, right? And so it's not necessarily about specific leadership topic or executive branding or personal branding, but it's more about doing now what patients need now, right? And so the whole topic about health impact is very close to my heart. And this is where I wear my homogeneous hat around everything I do, right? Because I believe if we don't look into the health issues that we have now, we will never meet the agenda of 2030 or 2032, which is only in a few years ahead. So we need to be fast, and we need to be able to do now what patients need now and not next.
Exactly. Yeah. Anissa, would you like to ask the first question?
I will go. I know Diana since years, and I've been following her, and I'm really Like every time that I see her activities and speakings or talks, I'm really genuinely, it warms my heart what you're doing, Diana. And that's why we wanted you really to be here today. So let's just start with this question. We're talking about leading without waiting for permission. What really inspire you to embrace this mindset, and how can it empower someone in their personal or professional journey?
Yeah. Um, I believe everyone has been an early in career employee at any organization, right? We were all at some point 20 or 25 years old. So we were all starting with our new role in some sort of an organization. And we were all struggling with, that potential of being the future leaders or the aspire leaders, but we didn't know how. We didn't know, how do I build that self-confidence? How do I, take ownership about something without waiting what my line manager is going to tell me, right? So I believe all of us have been through that path, more or less. And so this was like an awakening moment also for me at some point. At some point, I realized, okay, I need to take ownership and I need to show up for myself. And whatever initiative it is, it can be a small initiative, it can be a bigger initiative, but I need to take ownership on what I'm doing so that I can showcase what are my leadership skills. And it's not about overburdening some rules or, aggressively saying, and this is how we have to do it now. It's more about the influencing part. It's about, building that consensus around your ecosystem, around your network, and saying, you know and try to test your ideas with other people and build that trust and confidence. So I always, this is what I've been learning, and especially this comes when I started to join this HBA organization. It didn't come just by itself. It needs sometimes a little bit of help, and you need to have some sort of a networking organization like the HBA, which is the Healthcare Businesswomen Association, where you can test some of your ideas, and you need to have a little bit of outside in perspective from a different community to build that confidence, right, in order to bring it back into your day-to-day job. So this is what helped me. And I'm not saying you need to join the HBA for doing that. But you can also take small actions in your day-to-day routine just to show up with your close stakeholders and to build that reputation for yourself.
Wonderful, wonderful. Building upon that, what you said, it would be very valuable if you could share some real life example or success story where someone you've worked with took initiative without waiting for approval and how it led to a positive change.
So I have many different examples because at the end of the day, I think organizations nowadays, most of the organizations that I've seen or I've worked with are flat organizations. So the hierarchy is no longer something that is so rigid and within organizations. So we all have this co-creation movement within organizations. So but what I see is that, for instance, because I am always acting as an in-house consultant within different projects, and I get to see lots of different projects, especially when they are at the early stage of rollout. So global rollout projects that need to be rolled out to other countries and affiliates. This is where sometimes people or a product team is struggling in how do you make that rollout successful. So I can see one colleague of mine was, for instance, in a product development team, and there were lots of inefficiencies in terms of communications and so on. And so when you see that type of inefficiencies, I could see, for instance, this colleague that was stepping up and say, okay, I need to solve that problem. And so the way how she did it without asking for the formal authority from the product lead team, she just went and solved that problem in institutionalizing some sort of sharing sessions. So she took the moment to get to know the team members, to get to know what are the challenges, what are the pain points, in order to understand a little bit better the problem and start to really build that consensus within the team. Because as I said before, trust is everything. If you build that trust for yourself and for your stakeholders, this is how you make a positive impact and also lead to a more approval phase of your project. So I was very proud to see that with one of my team colleagues. And this is the path that I would like to see also for everybody else in the future in those type of projects and organizations.
That's
We need
very
more managers like you, Diana.
But
We have
nowadays I believe that, as I said, hierarchy is not a topic anymore. At least in lots of organization, I believe the leaderships nowadays is very servant leadership. So we give the voice to the employees in order to do this, to approach this in a more uh, creative way, rather than controlling everything what the employees are doing. So I believe we need to go more and more in that direction.
That's very interesting. It also brings a topic of culture, I guess. Like, I mean, I have worked in very hierarchical environment myself, and the experience was very different in different teams, in different bosses, different line managers. Like, some are more comfortable, some are more territorial, some are actually they like you as a person, they help you. I mean, I had the experience of being promoted, getting the support, the sponsorship, but when it came to work topics, it was like it was not so easy to move out of the lines and do anything outside that. So I was struggling, I must say. So I'm really curious to know about your personal experiences of doing this. Did you face any challenges, any resistance?
I mean, the beauty of my job, of my day job, about change management is exactly that, the challenges. I love challenges. I love problems, and I love how to solve problems, right? So, as a change manager, you have to deal a lot with stakeholders, as I said before. So, I was again in a different project, and again, this is rollout project, and the team was demotivated, and they need this big cultural shift to address that. So, as you say, it's a cultural issue most of the time in the organizations. But the team didn't know what is the right messaging for this rollout project. How do we address that? And what is the appetite within the countries and the affiliates to adopt this project, right? They were very insecure. So the challenge here was get to know your stakeholders. That's the first thing you need to know. You need to know who are your friends, who are your enemies. Once you understand that constellation, then you have all the winning cards for yourself. And I must say, I love to work with resistance, because that's exactly the challenge. You need to convince those that are opposed to the idea of the transformation to bring them from the reactive status into the creative status, and that's the mindset shift that I would like to see more and more in these adoption projects. So I was able to get to know my stakeholders. I was able to identify who are the senior leaders without even the team telling me that, right? I kind of did some sort of research by myself. And once I identified the senior leaders, I was able to equip them with the right messaging for the rollout project. So they were very happy to be introduced to the initiative, to the project, and they were happy to install this top-down messaging to the affiliates. So at the end of the day, I was able to mobilize the most important, because unfortunately we are talking about hierarchy, but in this type of rollout projects, you need to have the voice of the senior leaders in order to move ahead with the projects and in order to achieve that successful adoption rate. So I was very proud of doing that by myself without even knowing, exactly how the function was working, and address the senior leaders to do that. So that is the first step that brings your project from awareness into desire, right?
Mhm. This is
And
actually
yeah,
very interesting. What you just brought, I think, is also relevant to a lot of people who listen to this are either project managers, so they have like responsibility, but not exactly the authority. But also, I know a lot of new leaders, like getting to know your stakeholders. This is really the most important
the
thing,
first thing. It's the first
even
thing.
like with for any other leadership topic, and
Yeah.
also understanding how to influence them. Like it's not really about pushing for your idea or being like the rebel. So that was something that was very interesting in what you said. And also there is something else you brought up, is that yes, there is going to be resistance. Yes, you're not, it's not about being liked all the time, and maybe you get into trouble a little bit, but you have to, if you want to be a leader, you have to be also okay to receive that kind of response as well. So that was really good. Thank you.
And maybe it comes hand to hand with what Diana said and you said, Sarah, to also lead difficult conversations, right?
Yeah.
Because when there is resistance, then you want to be there. You want to, of course, with respect, with heart. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be like bonbon, sugary, chocolatey conversation. It's going to be hard.
Yeah. Yes.
Leading difficult conversation requires you to be an active listener. Uh, if you have practiced that, because that goes a little bit into coaching, right? We also wear the hat of being a coach as a project manager or as a communication manager or as a change manager. It's about really understanding what is said between the lines. And sometimes it's not even what it's spoken, sometimes it's what is not being spoken. And it's about also the body language. It's about, what is your cultural background, and why is this person being so opponent and resistant to the change? So you have to sit yourself in the shoes of a coach at that time and understand how to bring that person into more a creative space. So
Exactly.
I've been doing that now for a few years, and I can see the change, and I can see how people respond to that in a more positive way.
That's really true. A lot of me, I've had this conversation actually with a couple of clients that yes, a lot of people get trained to become coaches, but a leader needs to have coaching skills too. It's very important. It's not just about like do this, do that, and try to push for it. It's really about understanding people, because if they don't feel seen and heard, probably then it's not going to be sustainable. So that was a very good point. Thank you.
Maybe I can jump to the next question. So, our audience are from all, let's say, functions, all levels, Diana. So, exactly where they are, let's say today, how they can get like really practical steps to start leading without permission. What are your tips that they can start to use from where they are today?
I think, as I said before, I love challenges, right? But sometimes you need to identify first what are the opportunities, right? Where are the opportunities to improve the status quo? Well, how many of us have been in status quo situations, right? Where you don't understand what's going on? Why is this not moving ahead? What is, the impediment here, right? To use the project manager language. So, and because we are in an agile setting, most of us are, it's important to, as I said, stakeholders important, but also understand in practical ways how to observe the opportunities for improvement, how to look for areas where you can make a difference. And it can be anything. It can be a process, it can be a communication, it can be the team morale with the status quo, right? And once you identify what are the small actions that, that can improve that? How can you influence those small actions by bringing a more efficient, streamlined approach? And also start to understand what is the team morale and bring it into a more mentoring, like we said, with the coaching, with the mentoring and facilitating more positive feedback. So it's really about, again, building that relationships with your team, build trust, and understand what are really the needs in order to move something and move them, because I hate status quos. I always, I am the first one that speaks up when there is a status quo, because there is always, you can see it also from my body language, my face expression, there is always a big question mark. What's going on here, right? So yeah, I believe these are some of the practical steps that you can do in your day-to-day job.
Actually, just building upon that, one is, of course, all of the things that you do. And sometimes in, practical situations, and especially when you are not at a very senior level, you are somewhere close to mid-management, maybe you're handling a really small team, but then you have a lot of senior leaders above you. And you constantly feel like whatever you are doing, you're constantly in that self-doubt sort of a mode where, hey, I don't know if this is right or not. I don't know if I should go ahead or not. How do people like that kind of overcome that sort of a barrier? Because I know so many of us, and sometimes you take an action and you're almost like, but this is not correct, and then your confidence kind of suffers such a big blow at that point in time that you don't know how to take your next step when a similar situation or another decisive situation comes along.
Yeah, yeah. Self-doubt is good. Don't misunderstand. I believe it's always good to have some sort of a one-to-one check-in with yourself and ask yourself the question, did I do this right? Or is it a mistake that I did? Because sometimes, even if when we say leading without waiting for permission, is giving you the authority to lead, but also do mistakes, right? Because the mistakes are the grounding stones that will help you to be more successful. So I always say a little bit of self-doubt is always positive. However, if you're really into that space where you cannot move ahead because you have been you have been freezed by your self-doubt, then I would say you need to shift your mindset. Then you need to do something about that. And you have to move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And so when I say growth mindset is allow to see where are the challenges as well as the opportunities and not the threats, right? So and that's why mistakes are important, because mistakes are part of the process, and that will make you more confident and show up as a confident leader. And so when you realize that you don't have to wait for the leadership to give you that permission, and when you realize that leadership is not always about having an answer to all the questions, but rather the contrary, is about dancing through the discovery and the journeys and have this learning path and journey, then this will help you to shift that mindset from fixed into growth. And I know it's not easy for everyone, because somebody might, just adhere to instructions, adhere to the ways of working, but at the end of the day, it's also something personal that reflects on your personal journey. So it is important that you shift that mindset, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also, this reminds me of something else. This whole topic of, firstly, being okay to be challenged, being okay for the dis to experience discomfort, and having that growth mindset. It also applies to taking ownership of your career. I also hear from so many people that, okay, waiting for permission for work, you could understand that a little bit for work topics, doing certain things in the project, but they also wait for being promoted wait for the boss to invite them to the next level, wait for someone to come and save you from your career challenges. It's all like pretty much the same. So taking ownership of your career, taking ownership of your influence, taking ownership of your personal brand, taking ownership of your identity. It's all, I think, down to that. And this is something I see happening, especially people growing in organization, because I also was with the same organization for a little while. In the beginning, I was really brave and doing a lot of things, but I could see my courage is being reduced. And then I'm being conforming more and doing less of all of these things. And there was a point that there was no personal brand for Sarah. I was part of the company brand. So this kind of, I thought like I should bring this up because it's also very relevant to what just shared. And that was very, very helpful.
Absolutely, Sarah. I believe this is really a personal journey that everybody needs to go through, from early in career to mid in career to late stage career. At some point, everybody needs to ask themselves the question, am I still, happy with the situation where I am? Am I still serving the purpose of being in a corporate organization? And if that's not the case, then you make the transition to something else, maybe being self-employed or move into your next role. It's at the end of the day, it's a personal journey.
Exactly, exactly. And while I'm self-employed myself, I am actually a fan of corporations. I think we need corporations for big initiatives. And yeah, there are going to be challenges. It's like a form of tribe. There are going to be people, relationship topics. But yeah, so it's quite interesting topic how all these like relationship dynamics play a role in how we are growing as community, how we are growing as humans, and how we are growing personally.
For me, what was the most interesting where while you were talking was that you thrive when you see challenges. You thrive when I mean, there has to be resistance, and you hate status quo and things like that. And usually people are always trying to speak about how to kind of avoid conflict, how to avoid situations where this could arise. But let's be honest, this is a part of our day-to-day lives, and we are, end of the day, not talking to systems, but people. And where there are going to be people, there are going to be, challenging situations, resistance, conflicts, sometimes really, really difficult conversations that come into play. And it's refreshing that you had the perspective of like lead them head on.
Pragati, I think with AI, we have another, um, use to bring to the table. We know that ChatGPT or other AI components might be biased, right? But when it comes to that stakeholder engagement or stakeholder management, and you want to bring the resistance into a more positive early adopters, we are all biased. We are all human beings. So we might all be biased. I might be biased because I want to bring this project to a successful adoption rate. The resistant might be biased because he or she doesn't believe that this is going to work. And then you have the friends on your side. Now, with AI, what are we doing with AI? I believe there is a component that we need to train the AI, whatever learning machine it is behind it, to help us with this resistant management in coming to a more cohesive decision making. So what I'm saying is, I think there is a new dynamic that comes into play, the humanized dynamic and the digital dynamic, and how to bring them together. Because with the AI, I think we have a winning point for ourselves if we train it in the right way, that the AI is going to help us in collecting, what are the gaps and the challenges with the resistance in a more analytical way without having that human bias, right? And so if we manage to do that, I think we can come to the results and to a consensus much faster and much more in an agile way in our agile settings as project managers. instead of wasting another year for consensus. I'm just, putting it there on the table because I believe this is also something relevant as we have to integrate AI in our day-to-day jobs.
Yes, it actually makes total sense. Imagine if you have the team, you give all the everyone's kind of data, how for example their disk profile is, for example, how their preference in communication is to AI, and you find the right way of communicating with each of them. Maybe somebody wants more data, maybe someone's more emotional. All of that, it saves so much time. So that's a great, that's quite actually interesting idea.
I'm even thinking about prototyping something in my stakeholder management and but I think it's still early. I haven't found yet, that particular AI training tool that
Mm.
I can use because you have to train the AI
Yes,
first, right? And so
yes.
but that could be something that I'm thinking to bring into change management and specifically into stakeholder management. So if anyone in this community has some ideas, please speak up and come to me because we can work on that together.
You're a
Amazing.
big fan of AI. I know Pragati Saran myself, so I'm sure that something can be born from there. And it's very interesting to hearing that enthusiasm from you, because there are many people in the companies I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
They're just worried that AI, they're gonna just get their place
Yeah, steal
or
them.
there again. So it's absolutely um, exciting to hear that such a person like you, with your position, you're pro AI. And I'm sure when our people are listening to this episode, they want to start leading really without permission, wherever they are and wherever role they are. And in this occasion, I think it's important also to share what can be the mistakes that they might do, right, during this path. What
Yeah.
is your opinion, and how can they avoid to be successful with leading rather than to make mistakes? Well, making mistakes is always good as well. Sometimes to fail, we need to fail to succeed. But as you are here and you can just guide them through
Yeah.
this.
So I was referring at the beginning of this conversation a lot to these early in career employees, right? So those that are coming out of the university, this is, the first job, and they want to make a statement. This is also as we get to know more and more the next generation workforce, like Generation Z and Alpha. I think there is a new way to combine them together with Zalpha, right? It's to understand them how to avoid making those mistakes, right? And how to not aggressively pushing for something that oversteps boundaries too quickly. So when I say leading without permission or without waiting for permission, doesn't mean you are off now and go and do whatever you want, right? Because that will quite soon take you out of the organization if you would follow that path. It's more about really not trying to do those mistakes, but instead influencing your area through collaboration and respect. Respect is important, if you want to be a good influencers and if you want to build your stakeholder management. And it's also to build that trust first before doing anything, because that initiative might otherwise be seen too disruptive for the organization. And I know we have the Zalfa generation being very bold with some ideas for climate crisis or for I don't know what, changing the status quo, which I'm also pro for. But I think they need to also understand what are the boundaries in order to avoid those mistakes, right? And so first trust, first influence, and then getting the buy-in from their leaders. And like this, they can lead by examples and build that momentum before taking bold actions. So just be a little bit cautious because when we say leading without waiting for permission, it's not a call for a anti-corporation movement, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I think we could continue this conversation forever because we're really enjoying this, but we probably have to wrap up because we know you're also very busy, Diana. Is there anything you'd like to add? Also, a call to action, something our listeners can do after listening to this conversation? Uh,
I would like to, first of all, I said for anybody in this audience that has some idea about bringing AI into stakeholder management, please reach out to me through LinkedIn. We're more than happy to have that conversation with you. But what can you do really how to start leading without waiting for permission in the next 24 hours, right? So my challenge is for you, my challenge is to identify one small area, one small ripple effect that you can take action today. Whatever it is, it can be a solution to a problem. It can be supporting a colleague that is frustrated with the status quo. I don't know, or take ownership for a task. Don't wait for someone else to approve it. Just do it. And this is how the leadership is going to take you to make things happen and without waiting for that permission. And so by taking that first step in the next 24 hours, you will be already seeing that transformation. And it will also not only help you, but also your colleagues and your peers to follow that path. So I encourage to do that and to let us know how it went. Maybe for the next episode, you might already have the next candidate or the next guest to talk about that. And start today and make the difference.
It's
yes,
a perfect way to wrap up the episode, right?
yes, exactly. Also, when we share it on social media, we should remember that this is what
Yeah,
we're supposed to do.
yeah. And we will link Diana's LinkedIn profile. So if anyone has ideas or wants to reach her, then you get it from the show notes. It was really, really lovely having you here. Echo everyone's feeling over here, the four of us. I think we really, really enjoyed this conversation, ladies.
Yes, indeed. Yes, it's so inspiring. Thank you so much, Diana. And yeah,
Thank
really
you so
enjoyed.
much. I was also very happy to be here, and I'm really looking forward to hear more of your episodes, right?
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. Thank you for your insights, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone, for listening.
Bye-bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of the Equation. If this episode has sparked something for you, we'd love to hear about it.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on LinkedIn or Instagram to continue the conversation.
And if you know someone who is navigating their next career step, share this episode with them. It could be exactly what they need.
We see you next time as we explore more about leading with purpose, resilience, and authenticity.
Let's keep growing together.